Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel. This is a very kind of spur of the moment video, something I didn't record the whole process for, but I wanted to go over the changes made to my movie mold David Miller Part 1 Fred bust. So I did my unboxing video a couple of days ago. Since then, I've been ogling over this thing, just staring at it, looking at all the details, doing a lot of comparisons and stuff like that. And during my unboxing video, and I was checking the piece out and showing you the turnarounds, I think one thing that stood out to me were the placement of the eyes and just how the eyes looked. It almost came off as if there wasn't much of a personality behind those eyes. Please keep in mind, this is not a dig at David Miller at all or a reflection of his work. I'm just one of those real fuddy-duddies, like a real fusspot when it comes to details and stuff like that. I think it also comes from the fact that with my Etsy store, I make a lot of resin busts and I deal with a lot of eyes and, placing of eyes and, eye placement can make or break a bust with really showcasing the personality. So what I wanted to do was try and loosen the original eye inserts in the bust and move them around and possibly just have them so I could move them in whichever direction I wanted. Now, this is totally preference at its finest. This is subjectivity at its finest. The original look of the bust, some people would definitely prefer, and you could equate it to this behind the scenes shot of Robert in the Part 1 makeup, and just his eyes are a little bit more relaxed and almost like he's a bit drowsy. Whereas I look at a shot like this from the film where even though it's just Robert's eyes, I love the evil demeanor of that look, especially with those sharp brows on the makeup. So I wanted to try and loosen the original eye inserts. Now, these aren't the original eye inserts. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of swearing at one point. So from what I could see, when you look on the inside, is that the eye inserts that were handmade by David Miller, and I've got them here and I will show you what's left of them in a minute, were held in place with epoxy sculpt. So I've used epoxy sculpt many a times. It's a, part A, part B, 100 to 100 mixed ratio, and it gives you a working time of several hours, which is great. You can smooth it out with water. And once it's set, it's rock hard. So you have to imagine that David Miller has ground out the closed eye sections of the Robert Englund life cast, because this is a closed Robert Englund life cast. So essentially you've got these massive voids here and just the silicone resting on top. So you have to have something to fill in that space and rest up against the eyes, because you can't glue the eyes to silicone. Nothing wants to stick to silicone but silicone. There is a bit of a way around it, and I'll touch on that at the end of the video with what I want to do in terms of going forward with this piece. Right now, I'm stoked with it, but these are kind of, I wouldn't say placeholders, but where the eye placement is, I want permanent, but I still have to figure out how to permanently fix them in place. So what I did was I grabbed a pair of multi-grip pliers, put them on the inside, and then gripped the side cup of the eyes. So I'll show you what is left of the original eye inserts. So here is one of the eye inserts, and you can see the remnants of the epoxy sculpt holding it in place. Now, if we take a look at this eye insert, it is a little worse for wear, and it's cracked. So when I was maneuvering the pliers on the inside and I was just relying on feel and sound, and you could hear things starting to kind of split. I'm like, am I loosening the epoxy sculpt or the eye? And I thought, fuck it. And I hear this god almighty crack, and this eye had a split right down the middle. The eye was cracked right down the middle, which is what you see here. And this essentially was my reaction. I thought, shit, I have screwed this bust up beyond repair. So I tried to patch up the little crack and thought, just leave it for now. Just come back to it with a fresh set of eyes in a couple of days, couple of weeks. Just leave it. You just got this thing and you're already trying to do something to it. But I thought, you know what? I have a spare pair of Tech Optics eyes in green, and this is their website here, and they're reasonably priced. They're high quality eyes, they're handmade in the States. Your other option is like Fourth Seal Studios, but also eBay for doll's eyes. But I had a spare pair of hyper realistic real green eyes, which is the same color as Robert's eye color. So I thought, you know what? Just commit to the bit and rip those eyes out, and hopefully you'll be able to figure out a way to secure those eyes in place and have them secured in place where you can still move them around. So again, these are the original eye inserts. They are handmade by David. They are beautiful eye inserts, and unfortunately, they did not really survive the operation, but it's still cool to see nonetheless. And I am definitely keeping these just as a little keepsake. So the good thing about taking those eye inserts out, the remnants of epoxy sculpt on the inside still had the cupping shape of the eye inserts. So there was something for the Tech Optics eyes to grip onto, which was great. Now this seems very low tech, but it's actually the way I send majority of my resin busts out when someone orders them from Etsy. The eyes that you see here, the Tech Optics eyes, are now held in place with blue tack, like wall poster tack. And that is what I send my busts out with, because it gives the client the option to move the eyes in whichever direction they want. Some clients do say, hey, can you just fix them in this position, permanently glue them? That's fine. Gloss them up, seal them up, call it a day. And I'm like, all right, cool, man. But I'll also send a couple of strips of blue tack. So this is the ideal position that I want for this bust. Again, going back to this particular screenshot, I love how evil and dark the eyes are, especially with those sharp brows. Now, if we cover up this eye, see this eye here? This is the ideal eye shape. I think this looks sinister, this looks evil, whereas this one here just looks a little bit too open. Now, I did go in with a hobby knife and just cut away about 1 millimeter or 2 on either side of the eyelid. So what I'd need to do is permanently fix these eyes in place. Now, I know I did not record the process, and that's because I didn't intend to do any coverage or a video on this, but I figured, some people will get a Jones in out of this. So I'm trying to explain it as best as I can. So the idea is to permanently position these eyes. I know I said they're held in with blue tack and it gives you the option to move them around, but I adore this look. To me, I'm at peace with this eye placement. Now, like I said, going back before, nothing wants to stick to silicone but silicone. So it's not one of those cases where I can glue the lower eyelid a bit up on the eye, but there is a way around it. And this is something I learned at an effects studio years ago. What you can do is get some silicone adhesive and say a thin piece of cloth or something porous and glue it to the inside and make sure the other side of the cloth that would be touching the eye isn't affected by the silicone. You can then glue that porous piece to the eye. And that's how most times out of 10 you can adhere silicone to something that isn't silicone. If you embed a porous thing like a piece of towel, cloth, doweling, anything like that, even like hessian, like when you're building up a mold, as long as there's no silicone on the other side that can inhibit it sticking, you should be in the clear. So that's the idea. Maybe a very thin piece of fabric, just a thin little strip on the inside, glued in place with some silicone adhesive, and then theoretically I can glue it to the eye, but just position it a little bit higher here so it's kind of got that snarl to it, like this one. To me, this is perfect. This eye, absolutely love. It just looks sinister. This one just needs to be closed in just a little more. Keeping in mind, I didn't take anything off the bottom eyelid. That's just the placement of it. And again, this isn't a knock with David's work. He's working with what he's got, but I'm just absolutely fussy and, just wanted to have a bit more personality injected into it. And on top of that, I gave the bust a very light mist of a super high matte sealer from Liquitex. It's an acrylic-based matte sealer. To me, I love the Part 1 makeup, apart from the wounds, when it's matte. I just feel the details, the paintwork pops more. I'm a big matte fan. I have a few friends called Matt, big fan of them too. Now the next step, which I haven't done yet, is to go back in with the wounds with a special gloss. The acrylic gloss doesn't want a bar of this silicone. It just beads away and it's essentially like water on your skin. But I do have a special gloss outside in storage, which I do want to try on these pieces, and I can't spray it. I definitely have to apply it by hand. But from what I can see with the way David's done it, it looks like he's used a silicone gloss paste on the wounds, which does look cool. It makes them look yucky and everything, but because I've sprayed the entire piece with the matte, I need to go back in and gloss up those wounds. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's the update on the movie mold David Miller Creations Fred Krueger Elm Street 1 bust. Slowly but surely getting there. It was very nerve-wracking yesterday. Again, this isn't a cheap piece. This cost a good couple of dollary dues, and I didn't want to fuck it up, but at the same time, I just didn't want to leave it as is. Some of you may have noticed it last night in my Toxic Avenger review, just sitting there, that things may have looked a little bit different. And again, it's different strokes for different folks. There were some people that will prefer the before. I just prefer a bit more personality and a bit more evilness in those eyes like this particular screenshot here. As always, thanks for watching, guys. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.